Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hope you're out there enjoying it with family and friends. And if you're working, we appreciate you. A lot of people working on the holiday weekend and some nasty hours. Hopefully you have some time to unwind and enjoy and celebrate when you can. I know a lot of people don't want to celebrate. Our country is not well, and that is something we have to address. But I think it's a day to celebrate it even more. And remember, the one thing we have in common is that we're all in this together. So let's celebrate it like that. And we have something to celebrate after the CONCACAF Under 20 champions, the U.S. You know, the national teams for the U.S. are getting a lot of podium time and a lot of trophy lifting time. You know, it's getting old. No, it never gets old. Never gets old. And we got to see it again in a clinical performance for this squad. Not just the players, but the coach, Mikey Varas. You talk about a guy who managed this perfectly. A lot of people were saying, why isn't Diego Luna playing in this game? Why are you making all these changes game to game? Well, he knew this squad. He played it perfectly. What a wonderful development he has been. But we'll break it all down here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. You can catch the one with Tom Bogert, where we break down how LAFC was able to sign Gareth Bale. He was the guy who broke the story. Coming up later this week, I'll be joined by Keith Costigan, who called the semi and final for the U.S. national team. So we'll get his perspective on how it looked. I always like to talk to the guys calling the games, because when I call games, I realize how locked in you are, as opposed to watching a game. It is an incredible practice. If you want to do it at home, just call a game looking at the screen, because you'll notice how dialed in you can get and prepared. As opposed, we all watch sports, you get up, go to the fridge. I'm guilty of it. So that's why I want to talk to Keith, so I won't go too far down that road. And of course, like and subscribe. Here, let's get those subscribers numbers up. This is a great time to do it. A 4th of July gift to you. Let's talk about this team. And what they were able to do is they beat the Dominican Republic 6-0 in the final. This was a tournament of surprises, right? Mexico falling way short. Canada not keeping the shine on. Guatemala making it to the semis. Dominican Republic making it in the final. So in the midst of all these surprise results, here is this locomotive of the U.S. team, just a wrecking ball through the field. There was just no doubt about it. I mean, they scored 31 goals. Granted, 10 were against St. Kitts and Nevis. They got stronger as the tournament wore on. I mean, they looked really fresh. You're not supposed to look like that after a few weeks together on the road. But this team just was really impressive. Now, we temper expectations a bit because this is CONCACAF, and those surprise results, you would imagine, made the path a little bit easier. But there's so much to take from this experience, and we're really looking at some kids in this cycle that are going to have an accelerated process to big money moves overseas or in MLS. Many of them most of them are MLS based, but we're seeing that in incredible development, where we're not only seeing kids at an accelerated pace, but playing in a way that look, it's going to get harder. I mean, they look like Barcelona. They're hitting it, pinging it around, different guys stepping up. I think it was the top. Paxton Aronson had 7 goals. Guys had 6 goals, 5 goals. Everyone chiming in, and you could have your favorite player of the tournament. It could have been Paxton Aronson. Alejandro Alvarado Jr. is a great shout. Maybe Diego Luna, although he didn't feature as much. Certainly not in that semifinal, which was really the big game here, and we'll talk about that. What about Caden Clark? Breathing life into his career back, because he was at the heights. He took a dip. That's why we've got to be patient with young players. And now he's back on a revival. So, he got FaceTime. Isn't that, and the endorsement should be lining up for Caden Clark. Just a handsome guy. Just this great look about him. And, it's good to see him have that moment as well. Only Chris Brady, the goalkeeper, played every game. So, the semifinal to the final, they made 6 changes. This is a deep squad that had resources for days, and it showed. The poor Dominicans, man, they get to this final, and it was over. Most of these games were over at halftime, except maybe Costa Rica and obviously Canada in the group stages. Third straight CONCACAF trophy. This feels a little different. They qualify for the FIFA World Cup, Under 20 World Cup, and they qualify for the Olympics after missing the last three. That is obviously important, although I'll get to that here in a moment. The big game here was Honduras, because Honduras was the host. Honduras was the team that knocked out the U.S. in past games of this nature, where it was to qualify for the Olympics, including the most recent edition. And they just came out and took care of business. Early goal, added to it, and continued to play, frustrated the Nicaraguans, the Hondurans, and just was no doubt about it. There was no white knuckling it for us. There was no doubt that they were going to achieve every goal here, and they did it comfortably. Caden Clark looked really fast out there. Even guys like Tyler Wolff coming on and scoring that goal in the final, it just shows what is capable of. This is, when we talk about guys, the scouts and the Europeans are watching to see where we can go, where the discussions about Paxton Aronson being better than his brother, who just made a $30 million transfer to Leeds United. By the way, congratulations to Tyler Adams. How exciting is that? How exciting is that? Everyone chipped in. So you should be very proud of what this group did and the style of which they did it. Look, that Honduras game was something else. And by the way, even in the Costa Rica game, can I say something that I kind of enjoyed? At the end, when they had that skirmish, and most sports skirmishes are a lot of pushing and shoving and shouting and a lot of tough guy stuff. Cade Cowell they went after it. I like that response. I know you can get yourself in trouble when Cade Cowell's facing this 3-match ban and missed the semi and the final. But it's small. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but I was like, don't get pushed around. And they didn't. That was the spirit of this team. They were nobody liked them. Nobody liked them because they showed them up. They hurt your feelings, but they'll push you back. Just an incredible image around this squad in particular that was hard not to be drawn into it. So we're glad we did. Now they go to the Under 20 World Cup, which is really the big part to me, because I think that is where you see the true development of the national teams. And this team may be one of the favorites, right? You look back at what Mexico did in the youth ranks, and it helped build that generation, which is now on the tail end of Herrera and Chicharito and Carlos Vela. And, by the way, Mexico's a big story here because what's going on with their development? And where is it? Where are the great young Mexican players? These things are cyclical, we know that, but it's a pretty alarming situation that they would lose in penalties to Guatemala, which was unheard of, really. They should be 2-3 goals clear of Guatemala. So that's a big development here. And look, I want Mexico to continue to play at a high level. I want these CONCACAF Under 20's to feel really big, but you need Mexico, Canada, Honduras, Costa Rica, Jamaica, all these countries to go, it's there. There's good talent here. So now we talk about the Under 20, which will be the World Cup, which will be in Indonesia. Interesting location. Maybe have a road trip on that one. Maybe have a road trip. This is the one because we've seen the development of players and national teams here. England is a perfect example. You saw it grow in the 17s and the 20s, and now they are a powerhouse at the World Cup, European Cup level. They're not really combined, but you can see that the English team is now going to be a force for several years. That's the competition that really matters. It is aligned with the FIFA dates. It's aligned with everything. You're getting the best players at that level there. You're getting the best under 20s. And that is where we really have to focus and blossom with this team. I don't know how many of these guys make it to that squad next year. I would imagine a large part of them. This is going to be a situation where you also ask how many of these players end up on the senior team. Normally, not a lot. Maybe this bucks the trend, but I think it's going to be very difficult to crack this U.S. team. It's going to be very difficult because it is so competitive and the development is going through the roof. And we'll talk about that as I'll wrap this up a little bit. The U.S. national team is on an incredible trajectory that you cannot resist. And all those people, the host, he was the English comedian, I forgot his name. I got to look it up. John Oliver. John Oliver. And he was on Men in Blazers, and he was saying, well, the reason we always pull against the U.S. teams, because you guys win in everything else, all these other sports. Let us have football, soccer. Let us have this. And there's some truth to that. And it's coming. Because these big American, you look at Brazil and Argentina and Colombia, and that United States could be at that level competing to win World Cups. It's happening. I don't know how soon that will be, and I know we've said this for decades, but you can't deny the width and breadth of talent coming out of here. We've barely scratched the surface. So John Oliver and many have to be concerned because it's going to happen, because maybe this maybe winning the under-20s is the beginning of all that. And I would say the under-20s are more important than the Olympics, because the Olympics are a wonky tournament. Don't shoot the messenger here. Let's be real when we talk about the Olympics. I am thrilled that this group, and whether it's them, I think it should be them, or some other of these players, get to experience the Olympics. Get to go in an Olympic village. Have fun in an Olympic village. They still do that? These stories? Go to the Olympics. Be part of that. Fight for a medal. That is something you want every athlete to play and participate. But I will stand by it. This should be a tournament for the kids. You know, all the sports have let the professionals come in. And look, for Mika, we were celebrating the Brazilian player because she's been in 7 Olympics. Is that something to celebrate? Seriously. Let someone else have a go. 7 Olympic Games? This is supposed to help develop it. The Olympic soccer tournament has, the women it's fine because you get the best players. But the men's tournament, it's not aligned with anything else in FIFA. It's just odd. So we had Brazil. See, Brazil kind of wrecked it because they were sending their best players, and the players are going, it's so important, I got to go to the Olympics. Okay, for Neymar and Richarlison and all these guys. And they won it. But they outclassed everyone because these other nations aren't sending their best players. And if that's the case, then the tournament gets compromised, and it has been. The men's Olympic soccer tournament has been getting less and less entertaining every Olympics. At some point, the national teams have to be, and who knows, the U.S. might get Christian Pulisic, who's eligible, and Weston McKennie to go there. But those clubs don't have to release them, nor should they. They have to release these players so much as is. So I would imagine there'd be some concern, even though it's in a summer tournament, and it would be the last major tournament unless they go to Copa America. Although the Gold Cup is bigger than the Olympics. I'm sorry. You can even say the Nations League is, because that is your competition. And it's the best teams. So the Olympics, again, really happy. I would love to see it. But let's not pretend it's the Olympics of the 80s or the 90s. That ship has sailed. And as long as some nations are not putting their best teams, then nope. Let's talk about something else. And I sent a tweet out after the win, and some would say it was kind of a bit depressing, but it was directed at a very select group. I was talking about those on USMNT Twitter that loathe Major League Soccer to the point where they don't watch it. And a lot of people got back at me, but they were people that watch MLS, so it wasn't directed at you. I'm talking about the people that talk about the U.S. men's national team and want to have an expert opinion, but don't watch MLS. You can't do that. You have to watch Major League Soccer if you want to have an educated opinion about the men's national team. You can't just say, I hate Paul Arriola. You still have to watch, even if you don't like it. But if you want to be an expert on the national team, you have to watch MLS because they have national team players currently, and the future national team players are playing there. MLS is taking the reins of developing players. They have MLS Next Pro. Whether you agree with it or not, the pipeline begins with Major League Soccer. As we saw there in the under-20s. 90% of that squad play in Major League Soccer for now. Maybe they move. But the point is, if you want to talk about the men's national team, if you want to have a discourse, and I'm open for that, you can't watch European leagues and then not watch MLS? That has to make sense, right? Even if you're sitting there watching the Earthquakes and the Red Bulls on a Sunday afternoon, which could be cruel and unusual, quite frankly. But it's all. And by the way, it's our league. We get back to what I said about the 4th of July. This is our league. It's ours. These are our kids playing here. So we should celebrate that instead of ridiculing it, because it's become a badge of honor for those that say, I will not watch MLS. It's beneath me. You know there's people like that will not watch. And let me say this. It's the biggest problem with Major League Soccer. People aren't watching. Is it an elite league? No. But it's also in diapers. It's 26 years old. We've got to nurture that. And we nurture by watching and supporting. So you can be critical of MLS when you're watching it, but you can't be critical of MLS when you don't watch it. Fair? So that's why I said it. I know it may have been a little bit petty, but it was also a bit of an experiment. I do this, as many people do on Twitter, to see how the reaction is. And it wasn't directed at certain people, yet they kind of shot back at me, and I would respond and go, but you watch MLS. You get it. All right? So let's take that away. I know that it's a negative ninny, but Olympics, you have to look at it. Watch the Olympics and tell me you don't even remember who wins it. I know Brazil won it, but what do I recall? It's such an odd tournament. I do not enjoy it. I don't. And then supporting Major League Soccer. Those are two things we can take away. You don't have to agree with it, but that's my homework for you guys. The Soccer OG, congratulations again to Mikey Varas, who an absolute rock star with the way he handled this, and this squad. Bring it on home. Hope you can enjoy the 4th of July and get a little time off before you guys get back to work. There's no time off for these kids. Enjoy your friends and your family. Subscribe here and check out the Soccer OG podcast. We'll talk to you very soon.